For 200 years, humanity had been gone. No ships, no colonies, no messages. The galaxy had moved on without them. New alliances were made, old wars were forgotten. And the name human became little more than a word in dusty history. Files, most believed they had been wiped out during the Great Collapse, the mysterious disaster that ended their presence overnight. But in the quiet, empty dark of space, something changed. On the edge of the dead zone, a region so dangerous that no species dared to cross it, a signal appeared. It was faint at first, a whisper of static. But then the voice came through. 3 words. Clear, calm, human. We are back. Inside the grand communications tower of the Valar Empire, Commander Trine's scales rippled with unease. Had been in charge of deep space monitoring for 20 years. In all that time, he had never heard anything like it. His claws tapped the console as the signal played again. "This is impossible," he muttered. "Humans are extinct." A younger officer leaned closer. "Sir, what if they're not?" Trin didn't answer. Instead, he opened a locked data channel, one reserved for the highest levels of the Empire, and sent the recording. Within minutes, alarms echoed through the tower, across the galaxy, in the shimmering halls of the Score Republic. The High Council gathered in emergency session. Long, curved display screens showed the signal waveform again and again, like a heartbeat from the past. Counselor Merrick's voice was tense. "This is a threat. Last time humans walked the stars, they fought enemies no one else could. Defeat, and they won. Every single time." Some scoffed. "Old war stories," said another counselor. "No proof, only myths." But deep in the Republic's archives, ancient files were being opened, sealed records of battles so violent that even the winners tried to forget. Grainy footage of massive human warships firing weapons no one could understand, armies moving like ghosts. And at the center of it all, the same defiant voice, repeating those 3 words, "We are back." Not everyone wanted the truth to spread. In the shadowed halls of the Tarvak Dominion, First Strategist Carr slammed his fist on the table. "Erase it," he ordered. "Destroy the signal before the people hear. We will not have panic in the streets." But already it was. Too late. The message was moving, jumping from relay to relay, reaching smugglers, traders, and outlaw fleets. And with each retelling, it grew more terrifying. "They're coming back for revenge. They've been hiding in the dead zone, building weapons. They're not human anymore." Far from the centers of power, a small alien research, crew worked inside a rusty science vessel called the Lantern. Its captain, Rin Velas, stared at the data with wide eyes. "Can't be real," Rin whispered. "We've been scanning that region for years. Nothing survives there. Nothing." Her engineer, a round, fur-covered creature named Toph, adjusted the sensor dish. "The signal isn't random," he said. "It's guiding us." "Guiding us where?" Rin asked. Toph swallowed hard. "Into the dead zone." The dead zone was a graveyard of ships, an endless stretch of space where navigation failed, engines died, and entire fleets simply vanished. No one knew why. The few who escaped told stories of shadows moving in the dark, of whispers on the comes of ships torn apart without a trace. And now, the signal was coming from deep inside it. Rin's first officer frowned. "Captain, this is a bad idea." "It's worse than that," Rin replied. "This is suicide." "But if the humans really are back, someone has to know." She gave the order. The Lantern's engines roared to life, and the ship began its slow, cautious journey toward the dark.
Hours later.
As they neared the dead zone, the crew's instruments went wild. Compass readings spun. Gravity sensors flickered. Its lights dimmed and brightened without reason. Then Toph froze. "Captain, I'm detecting something." Rin turned to the main display. First it looked like a star, but it was moving, slowly, deliberately, and it was huge. "That's no asteroid," she said. The object changed course. It was coming toward them. And as the distance closed, the signal played again, louder now, a deep, commanding voice that filled the ship's cabin. "We are back. You want me to now continue with part 2? where this massive object emerges from the dead zone and the galaxy starts to realize what's coming? That's where the tension will really start burning. Whispers of the dead zone. The galaxy had always feared the dead zone, not because of what they saw there, because no one ever came back to tell the tale. The alien research vessel. Varith's light floated on the edge of that dark region, its hull creaking under the strain of nearby gravitational anomalies. Captain Salvar, a tall, insectoid being with 6 delicate eyes, stared at the scanners. "Still no visual," said Morthon, the ship's sensor officer. His voice was shaky, but the signal, stronger, too strong. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. In the quiet of the bridge, the human words from the transmission seemed to echo in their minds. "We are back. 200 years. Entire empires had risen and fallen since the Great Collapse. Humanity had vanished without a trace, leaving only myths and warnings. No one really remembered why humans had been feared. The archives were sealed, marked with the highest security clearance. All that was left were whispers." Salvar kept his gaze on the void ahead. "We go in," he ordered. The crew didn't move. Finally, Morthon spoke. "Captain, ships don't come back from the dead zone. It's not space in there. It's something else." "Then it is perfect for hiding," Salvar replied. "And if humans are there, we must see them before anyone else does." The Varuths. Light crossed the boundary. At once, space around them seemed to twist. Colors bled into each other. Stars blinked in and out of existence. And underneath it all, a deep thrumming pulse, as if the void itself had a heartbeat. Gravitational distortions. "Electromagnetic surges," Morthon muttered. His hands shook as he adjusted the sensors. "This place is wrong." Hours passed, though it was hard to tell time here. The deeper they went, the stronger the signal became. But with it came something else. Faint whispers over the coms in dozens of languages. The voices spoke of battles, lost ships, and a war that should never have happened. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. Warning sirens blared. "Contact!" Morthon shouted. Something massive is moving ahead." The crew stared at the main screen. Out of the swirling void, a shape emerged, bigger than any warship in the known galaxy. Its hull was black, absorbing all light with faint silver lines that pulsed like veins. "It's human," Salvar whispered. "That's human design." Before they could react, the giant ship's coms activated. The voice that came through was calm, steady, and unmistakably human. "You shouldn't be here," it said. "Leave now, while you still can." And then, without warning, the massive ship vanished, not into faster-than-light travel, but as if it had simply ceased to exist. The crew sat frozen, hearts pounding, minds racing. It'd seen a ghost from history, and it had spoken to them. Salvar tightened his grip on the armrest. "Trace where it went," he ordered. But Morthon's voice was trembling. "Captain, it didn't go anywhere. The sensors say it's still here. It's all around us." The lights dimmed again. As time, the whispers grew louder. Something in the dead zone had awakened. The whispers didn't fade. They grew. At first, the alien crew thought it was interference, but soon they realized each voice was speaking directly to them. Some whispered in long-forgotten dialects, others in broken alien tongues. One voice, deep and cold, repeated the same phrase over and over. "You should not have come." Captain Salvar's antennae twitched with unease. "Shut off all non-essential systems. If they can hear us, they can track us." Morthon's hands flew across. "The controls, Captain. They already know exactly where we are." The main screen flickered, and for a split second, an image appeared. The massive black ship again, but this time closer. So close its hull filled the entire view. Strange markings were carved into the metal, not decorative, but names. Thousands of them. Some in human script, others in alien languages. "Those are ship names," whispered Zari, the navigation officer. "All lost in the Great Collapse." The names were etched as if each one had been burned into the hull with fire hot enough to scar steel. Dared. Saildar stared at the list until his gaze froze. On a name in his own language, Vareth's pride, that ship was from my homeworld, lost over 200 years ago. The lights on the bridge dimmed again, but this time they didn't come back. One by one, each console powered down. The hum of the engines fell silent. The Vareth's light drifted, powerless. The whispers became clear. They were telling stories. We fought beside them. And then they turned, the fire that burned stars. We are still here. Morthen's voice was a tremor. Captain, these aren't just voices. I think they're the minds of the dead. From the forward viewport, shapes began to appear. Not ships. Not solid shadows. They drifted like smoke. Yet their outlines were unmistakable. Human figures in old armored suits floating as if weightless. Their visors glowed faintly, revealing nothing inside. One figure floated right up to the viewport. It raised a hand and pressed its palm against the glass. Selvar's breath caught. The human figure spoke, and its voice bypassed the coms entirely, resonating inside every mind on the ship. We remember what was done, and we will not forgive. Suddenly, the black ship reappeared behind the drifting figures, vast and silent. The glowing veins along its hull pulsed brighter, like a heartbeat quickening. The ship wasn't just here to scare them, it was here to decide. And in the suffocating darkness of the dead zone, the alien crew realized this wasn't the same. Humanity the galaxy remembered. This was something far older, far colder, something that had been waiting for 200 years. The Vareth's light hung motionless in the void. No engines, no lights, no sound, except for the whispers. Captain Selvar forced his voice too. Stay steady. Restart auxiliary power. Now. Morthen didn't move. His eyes were locked on the viewport, Captain. Look. The dead zone was changing. Where there had been empty space before, shapes now formed long. Black structures stretching in every direction like an endless cage. The stars were gone, blotted out by walls of shifting metal and shadow. This isn't space, Zari said, her voice breaking. This is built. Someone made this. The whispers grew louder. Not chaotic this time, organized. A single voice took control, deep and sharp like the crack of metal. You entered our grave. You will prove you are worthy to leave. A blinding white light erupted from the black ship. Ahead, the crew shielded their eyes. When they looked again, the space around them had changed. The Vareth's light was no longer floating in open void. It was inside a vast ring of colossal debris, shattered ships, torn metal, alien bones. One of the hulks drifted past, its hull pierced by what looked like molten claws. Sailvar recognized the markings. That's a Tavori warcruiser. Those things could withstand star-level heat. This was melted from the inside. The voice returned, reached the beacon, survive the trial, fail, and join the rest. A distant glow appeared far ahead. The beacon. Between them, and it floated the wreckage of dozens of ships, forming a dense, twisting maze. Zari's hands hovered over the controls. Captain, I don't think this is debris. It's moving. As they watched, a massive chunk of metal shifted, then another. The wrecks weren't drifting. They were alive. From the shadows, something uncoiled. Long, black, jointed limbs tipped with claws of burning light. The thing's head was a jagged mass of metal and bone, and in its chest, something glowed red like a furnace. Sailvar swallowed hard. Weapons online. The weapons panel lit up, but only with human symbols, flashing red. Morthen stared at them. Captain, the ship's systems are changing. They're not ours anymore. Begin, the voice ordered. Without warning, the wreckage around them surged forward, the massive clawed thing leading the charge. The trial had begun. The Vareth's light shot forward, not by Xeris's control, but by something else. The helm lit up with strange green lines forming patterns she couldn't read. I'm not flying this, she shouted, her claws frozen over the console. The ship weaved between drifting wrecks at impossible speed, twisting and rolling so tightly that Selvar's chest pressed against the restraints. Then, a flash. A beam of burning light from the clawed creature ahead sliced through a derelict battleship, splitting it in two. The halves spun apart, revealed three more of the things behind it. "They're hurting us," Morthen growled. "Like prey." The deep voice came again, vibrating the hull. "Only the strong pass, the weak. Feed the Guardian." From the floor panels slid open. Hidden weapons, human weapons, emerged, their barrels black and angular, glowing faintly with heat. Symbols appeared on the targeting screen, alien shapes mixed with ancient human script. Selvar's eyes widened. This isn't an alien ship anymore. It's a human war machine. The guns roared to life before anyone could protest. Of white-hot energy tore into the clawed creatures, their armored limbs shattering like glass. But for every one that fell, more emerged from the shadows. One of the beasts slammed into their starboard side. The hull groaned. Zari screamed as the impact threw her across the console. Warning lights exploded across the display. "We're losing shields," Morthen barked. The ship responded before Selvar could order it, spinning in a corkscrew, firing in every direction, tearing a path through the moving graveyard. The crew could only hold on. They weren't flying anymore. They weren't even fighting. They were watching. The voice returned, louder now, almost pleased. "You are not ready, but you will be." Then, without warning, a massive shadow filled the viewport. Not a creature, a ship, but it wasn't alien. It was human. And it was bigger than any vessel the galaxy had ever built. The return of giants, the shadow kept growing until it filled the entire viewport. Metal plates, black, scarred, and lined with glowing veins of red, stretched farther than their sensors could measure. The ship moved slowly, not because it was weak, but because it didn't need to hurry. It radiated power. This is impossible," Selvar whispered. "That's not a ship. That's a city," No, Morthen said, his voice shaking for the first time. "That's a fortress." Dozens of colossal turrets rotated along its flanks, each the size of a starport. Between the plates, strange blue light pulsed, like a heartbeat. On its prow, etched in ancient forgotten lettering, was a name. Zari read it aloud, her voice barely a breath. "Eternal resolve," the cum crackled. A voice human, deep and steady, came through. "You have entered the dead zone without permission. State your purpose." Selvar swallowed. We came to investigate a signal." There was a pause. Then the voice replied, "You heard it. That means you were meant to see." The Eternal Resolve's hull shifted, and an entire section opened like a colossal door. Inside was not a hangar, but a battlefield, a massive, moving arena filled with ships, drones, and armored soldiers in black suits. Training grounds, Zari realized. There, it's preparing for something. The human voice spoke again. 2 centuries we watched. 2 centuries we built. The galaxy thought we were gone. But the collapse was not our end. It was our beginning. Another massive ship slid out from behind the fortress, and another and another. Soon an entire fleet of human warships surrounded them, each bristling with weapons unlike anything. In known space, Selvar felt his chest tighten. They're not just back. They're ready for war. The voice's final words were calm, but carried the weight of a storm. The galaxy forgot why it feared us. It will remember soon. And as the Eternal Resolve's fleet turned toward the edge of the dead zone, the stars ahead seemed to darken, as if the universe itself knew. Mankind had returned.